Once upon a time, there was a woman named Linnea. She had a tough time dealing with her mother-in-law, Freja, and her husband, Oscar, who didn't seem to care much about her safety. Linnea decided to change the names in her story to keep her identity hidden. So, let's call her Linnea, her husband Oscar, and her mother-in-law Freja. Linnea's grandma Sigrid played a crucial role in her life, being the one she could rely on. Let's start from the beginning. Linnea thought Oscar was a good boyfriend. She loved him dearly and was excited when he proposed. However, things took a turn after they got engaged. Oscar's behavior started to raise some concerns. Linnea noticed that Oscar and his mother, Freja, were unusually close. Freja seemed to have a lot of control over Oscar. Problems began when Freja moved in with them and started meddling in their affairs. One day, Freja surprised Linnea with some papers, saying they needed to sign them. Linnea was puzzled and asked what they were. Freja explained it was a prenuptial agreement, a legal document that protects assets in case of divorce. Linnea felt hurt and embarrassed. She hadn't been consulted about this agreement. She refused to sign it immediately. Oscar and Freja argued that it was necessary to protect their assets, especially since Linnea earned less than Oscar. Feeling betrayed, Linnea sought solace in her grandmother Sigrid. She shared her troubles, and Sigrid expressed her concerns about Oscar's behavior. Despite this, Linnea insisted she loved Oscar and wanted to marry him. Sigrid advised Linnea to consider signing the prenup, but cautioned against revealing her family's wealth. She believed Oscar might not have the best intentions, and Linnea needed to protect herself. Despite Sigrid's warnings, Linnea remained adamant about marrying Oscar. She hoped their love would conquer all obstacles. But little did she know, more challenges lay ahead in her journey with Oscar and Freja. Linnea promised her grandma Sigrid that she wouldn't tell anyone about their family's wealth. She believed Oscar was a good man who wouldn't take advantage of her. She trusted that if Freja became too much, Oscar would protect her. However, Linnea soon realized she was mistaken about Oscar. He turned out to be a terrible husband, and Freja's behavior was even worse than she had thought. Despite her initial hesitation, Linnea eventually gave in and signed the prenup. Looking back, she realized it was a wise decision. After they got married, Freja's abuse escalated. Even with the prenup signed, she verbally and sometimes physically attacked Linnea. One incident stood out as a turning point in their marriage. One day, Linnea returned home from work to find Freja demanding that she wash a bag of clothes. Linnea complied, not wanting to provoke Freja or Oscar. But as she carried the heavy bag down the hall, Freja deliberately tripped her. Linnea fell and hurt her ankle badly. Despite her cries of pain, Freja laughed and left. Desperate for help, Linnea called Oscar and told him what happened. But to her dismay, he accused her of lying and hung up on her. Feeling abandoned and helpless, Linnea realized she couldn't endure the abuse any longer. Secretly seeing a therapist with her grandma's support, Linnea reached her breaking point. She knew she had to escape the toxic situation. What infuriated her even more was Freja's cruel texts, mocking her pain and Oscar's refusal to stand up for her. Tragedy struck when Linnea's grandma passed away. Though saddened by the loss, Linnea found solace in knowing her grandma was no longer suffering. However, Oscar's indifference during this difficult time hurt her deeply. Things took a surprising turn when Linnea inherited a vast fortune from her grandma, $450 million. Oscar was shocked beyond belief when he found out. Suddenly, he started being overly nice to Linnea, which only confused her more. To Linnea's shock, Freja appeared in her room one day, wearing a strange smile. Linnea couldn't help but feel uneasy, realizing she didn't know what Freja was capable of anymore. Linnea was startled to find Freja in her room, especially since no one had mentioned her visit. She couldn't shake off the discomfort of waking up to Freja's stare. What are you doing here, Freja? No one told me you were coming today. Why were you staring at me while I was sleeping? It's creepy, Linnea exclaimed. Freja, with an unsettling calmness, explained, I came early to help you with the chores. I made you tea, and it's right beside the bed. I know you love tea, so I got a special batch for you. Linnea was not buying it. You didn't answer why you were sitting in my room when I was sleeping. Honestly, Freja, it's creepy as hell, she reiterated. Freja tried to play it off. I was trying to massage your feet, Linnea. I know you hurt them while carrying my laundry that day. Your feet must be sore, so I thought I could help, Freja said innocently. Angered by Freja's audacity, Linnea snapped, You literally tripped me that day, Freja. How dare you show up and try to massage my feet? Don't you have any shame? But Freja remained unfazed. No need to be dramatic, Linnea. It was an honest mistake. I already massaged your foot to make up for it, she said dismissively before leaving the room. Feeling violated, Linnea demanded Freja to leave her room. Get out of my room, Freja. I don't want to see your face right now, she ordered. Freja complied, promising to make breakfast. Her sudden change in attitude left Linnea bewildered. She suspected that Oscar might have influenced Freja's behavior to secure Linnea's inheritance. However, Linnea had already taken precautions to protect her fortune. Determined to stand up for herself, Linnea dressed her best and headed to the kitchen. She found Oscar and Freja conspiring, their smiles widening upon seeing her. Why did you make breakfast today? I would have done it myself. Linnea questioned Oscar, sensing something amiss. Oscar brushed off her concern, insisting that he was happy to help. He even suggested hiring a housekeeper once they sold the house and bought a mansion. Linnea couldn't help but laugh at their sudden enthusiasm for spending her inheritance. She realized that their intentions were far from genuine. The shock and disbelief in their eyes was almost comical. It had barely been a day since I inherited my fortune, and already, they were plotting how to spend it as if I'd gladly hand it over. Did they really believe that one day of fake niceties could erase years of abuse? Freja and Oscar squirmed uncomfortably under my laughter, clearly realizing how absurd their sudden change in demeanor must have seemed. They held on to the hope that I'd forgive them instantly, blinded by the allure of my newfound wealth. After letting my laughter subside, I couldn't resist teasing them. Oh my, it's been just a day since I received my inheritance, and look at how drastically you two have changed your tunes. Money really does make a difference, doesn't it? Their discomfort was palpable as they tried to deflect with feeble excuses. We had no idea you were so fortunate. We would have treated you better if we knew, they claimed, attempting to guilt-trip me for not revealing my inheritance sooner. I listened to their chatter, amused by their audacity, as I casually retrieved the documents I'd been concealing. Freja and Oscar eyed them expectantly, thinking I was about to hand over control of my fortune. With a smirk, I corrected their assumptions. Actually, we're not millionaires. I am. The money is mine, inherited solely by me, I announced, relishing the shock on their faces. But they weren't about to let go so easily. But we're married. We share everything, they protested, clinging to the notion that my wealth was somehow theirs by association. Freja, in her typical manipulative fashion, appealed to our familial ties. As your mother-in-law, I'm family too. You should share with me, she insisted, conveniently forgetting her past mistreatment of me. I couldn't help but scoff at their hypocrisy. Funny how I've suddenly become your daughter now, isn't it? Until yesterday, I was just the witch your son married. And as for you, Oscar, you've been a terrible husband. I've filed for divorce, I declared, slamming the divorce papers on the table. Their initial disbelief quickly turned to panic as they scanned the documents, realizing I wasn't bluffing. What is this, Linnea? Why would you do this? They stammered, unable to comprehend that I had finally found the courage to break free from their toxic grasp. Their shock was a satisfying confirmation that they never expected me to stand up for myself. But it was too late for their apologies and empty promises. I was done playing their game, and now I held all the cards. Feeling their anger seethe, I couldn't help but confront them head-on. "Why are you surprised, Oscar? I warned you this was coming from the moment Freja tripped me. I can't believe you're still stuck in the past. I've apologized for it, and it's done. But that doesn't erase the abuse I've endured. This isn't something I can just get over," I asserted. But their response only fueled my determination. "You expect me to forgive and forget? I'm divorcing both of you, and you won't see a penny of my inheritance," I declared, unable to believe I once loved such vile individuals. Their shock quickly turned to anger. "What's the use of divorcing me, Linnea? Your inheritance is our marital asset, so I'll get half of it anyway," Oscar sneered, clearly underestimating my resolve. But I had a trump card up my sleeve. "Did you forget about the prenup you and your mother forced me to sign? Most of my inheritance is protected by it," I reminded them. Their faces fell as they realized their mistake. The prenup was a way for them to abuse people and not face consequences, I observed, relishing their comeuppance. Unwilling to let me go without a fight, they threatened legal action. "You can't just decide on your own. I'll fight you in court," Oscar insisted, his tone dripping with malice. But I wasn't about to back down. "I have evidence of your abuse, Freja. Confessions you made in texts," I countered, watching their faces pale at the realization of their vulnerability. Their apologies came in a frantic flurry, but I knew their contrition was insincere. They forgot that I had the power to put Joan in jail, I mused, seeing through their desperate pleas for forgiveness. Their attempts to manipulate me fell on deaf ears. I had endured enough, and now it was time for them to face the consequences of their actions. While Oscar and Freja scrambled to salvage their situation, I was quietly biding my time, waiting for the perfect moment to make my move. Armed with the divorce papers, I left their house, determined to start anew. Oscar and Freja pleaded with me to stay, urging me to talk it out like adults, but I had made up my mind. I was moving into my grandmother's house, a place of comfort and solace that now belonged to me. As I settled into my new home, Oscar and Freja's attempts to change my mind fell on deaf ears. I held firm, reminding them of the consequences if Oscar refused to sign the divorce papers. Eventually, faced with the reality of their predicament, Oscar relented and signed, unwilling to risk his mother facing legal repercussions. But their troubles were far from over. Oscar, unable to accept the divorce, turned on Freja, blaming her for their downfall. Their relationship crumbled under the weight of resentment and blame, leaving Freja homeless and destitute. Meanwhile, I made it my mission to expose their true nature to the world, ensuring they faced the consequences of their actions. Through donations to women's shelters and advocating for victims of abuse, I sought to turn my ordeal into a force for good. With my inheritance wisely invested, I continued working at my old job, finding purpose and fulfillment in my independence. Though my journey had been fraught with challenges, I remained hopeful for the future, trusting that someday I would find someone worthy of my love and loyalty. In the months that followed, I immersed myself in rebuilding my life, one step at a time. While Oscar and Freja wrestled with the fallout of their actions, I focused on healing and moving forward. My grandmother's house became a sanctuary, a place where I could reflect on the past and envision a brighter future. As I settled into my new surroundings, I found solace in the familiar sights and sounds that reminded me of cherished memories with my grandmother. Each room held a piece of her spirit, a reminder of her enduring love and wisdom. But amidst the tranquility of my grandmother's home, echoes of the past still lingered. The scars of abuse ran deep, leaving me grappling with feelings of betrayal and mistrust. Yet, with each passing day, I grew stronger, determined to reclaim my sense of self-worth and dignity. Meanwhile, Oscar and Freja's lives took a downward spiral. Stripped of their illusions of wealth and security, they faced the harsh reality of their own shortcomings. With their relationship in shambles and their reputations tarnished, they found themselves isolated and alone. Despite their attempts to reconcile, the rift between them only widened, fueled by resentment and regret. Their fall from grace served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the consequences of greed and manipulation. As for me, I found purpose in advocating for others who had endured similar hardships. Through my donations to women's shelters and involvement in community outreach programs, I sought to empower survivors and break the cycle of abuse. But amidst the challenges and setbacks, there were moments of joy and triumph. I forged new friendships, rediscovered passions long forgotten, and embraced the possibilities of a future filled with hope and possibility. And through it all, I remained grateful for the resilience that carried me through the darkest of times. With each sunrise, I was reminded of the boundless strength that lay within, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human heart. As the seasons changed, so too did the landscape of my life. I found myself navigating uncharted territory, guided by a newfound sense of purpose and determination. While Oscar and Freja's lives seemed to spiral further into chaos, I remained steadfast in my pursuit of healing and renewal. One of the most profound shifts occurred within me, an internal transformation that mirrored the changing seasons outside. I learned to embrace vulnerability as a source of strength, allowing myself to confront the pain and trauma of the past with courage and resilience. Through therapy and self-reflection, I peeled back the layers of emotional armor that had shielded me for so long, revealing the raw, unfiltered truth of my experiences. In doing so, I discovered a profound sense of liberation, a freedom that transcended the confines of my circumstances. No longer shackled by the chains of fear and self-doubt, I embraced my newfound autonomy with a fierce determination to live life on my own terms. With each passing day, I found new ways to nurture my spirit and cultivate joy in the present moment. Whether it was tending to the garden my grandmother had lovingly tended or immersing myself in creative pursuits, I reveled in the simple pleasures that brought me solace and fulfillment. Yet, amidst the quiet moments of introspection, there were also challenges to overcome. Old wounds resurfaced, triggering waves of grief and uncertainty. But instead of retreating into darkness, I leaned into the discomfort, allowing myself to feel deeply and fully without judgment or shame. In doing so, I discovered the profound power of self-compassion, a gentle reminder that healing is not a linear journey but a continuous ebb and flow of growth and renewal. With each step forward, I honored the resilience that had carried me through the storm, trusting in the inherent wisdom of my own inner compass. And as the days turned into weeks and months, I found myself standing at the threshold of a new beginning, a chapter filled with possibility and promise. Armed with the lessons of the past and the wisdom gained from adversity, I embraced the future with open arms, ready to write the next chapter of my story with courage, grace,